Hi guys, I am here with your Bible reading for today. Today we're really going to get into talking about a lot in Mark chapter 15. First we're going to see Jesus handed over to Pilate and see what Pilate says. Then you're going to see Jesus mocked by the soldiers. You're going to see the crucifixion of Jesus today and also the death and burial of Jesus. As I'm reading Mark 15 today, I want you to think about, like, Jesus is my best friend. If you're not that close to Jesus yet, if you don't feel that Jesus is like your best friend, I want you to think about the person you love most in this world. Your best friend, the one you love more than anything in this world, the person you would take a bullet for, you would do anything for. And I want you to picture that person in Jesus' place as I'm reading this. And we'll be reading in the New International Version. Let's see Jesus before Pilate. Very early in the morning, the chief priests with the elders, the teachers of the law, and the whole Sanhedrin made their plans. So they bound Jesus, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate. "Are you the king of the Jews?" asked Pilate. "You have said so," Jesus replied. The chief priests accused him of many things. So again Pilate asked him, "Aren't you going to answer? See how many things they are accusing you of?" But Jesus still made no reply, and Pilate was amazed. Now it was the custom at the festival to release a prisoner whom the people requested. A man called Barabbas was in the prison with the insurrectionists who had committed murder in the uprising. The crowd came up and asked Pilate to do for them what he usually did, which is to release one of the prisoners to them. "Do you want me to release to you the king of the Jews?" asked Pilate. Because that's what Pilate was hoping for, because he knew Jesus had done no wrong, and he wanted him released. Plus, Pilate's wife had had a dream and didn't want him to harm Jesus, and because she was really afraid when she knew Jesus was a good man. And Pilate didn't want to do this. But what did the people say? "Do you want me to release the king of the Jews to you?" he said, knowing it was out of self-interest that the chief priests had handed Jesus over to him. But the chief priests stirred up the crowd to have Pilate release Barabbas instead. So they was all screaming, "We want Barabbas! Free Barabbas! Free Barabbas!" So Pilate said, "What shall I do then with the one you call the king of the Jews?" Talking about Jesus. Pilate asked them. "Crucify him!" they shouted. "Why? What crime has he committed?" asked Pilate. But they shouted all the louder, "Crucify him!" Wanting to satisfy the crowd, Pilate released Barabbas to them. He had Jesus flogged, which is beat, and handed him over to be crucified. But in the King James Version, it doesn't say here in the New International Version, but in the New King James Version, it also says that Pilate got a bowl of water and washed his hands and said he's washing his hands of it. He was having no part of it because he knew Jesus done no wrong. But he, still being the ruler, turned him over to be crucified because that's what everyone, the public wanted, except for the followers that were screaming for Jesus to be released in the crowd, of course, but the ones for Barabbas far outweighed them because of the Sanhedrin and the elders stirring up the crowd. Now you're going to see how the soldiers mocked Jesus. The soldiers led Jesus away into the palace and called together the whole company of soldiers. They put a purple robe on him, then twisted together a crown of thorns and set it on him, which, you know, a crown of thorns is going to be very excruciating and make your head bleed. And they began to call out to him, "Hail, King of the Jews!" Again and again they struck him on the head with a staff and spit on him. Falling on their knees, they paid homage to him. And when they had mocked him, they took off the purple robe and put on his own clothes. Then they led him away to be crucified. A certain man from Cyrene, Simon, the follower of Alexander and Rufus, was passing by on his way in from the country, and they forced him to carry the cross. See, Jesus was carrying his own cross that he was going to be crucified on up to the hill of Golgotha. But he was so weak from the beating that he kept falling. And it angered the guards because they wanted to get him up there and crucify him. So they had Simon from the crowd carry Jesus' cross for him. They brought Jesus to the place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. Then they offered him wine mixed with myrrh, but he did not take it. In the New King James Version, it says they put vinegar on a sponge, making Jesus think it was water. So Jesus tasted it and knew that it was vinegar, and he wouldn't drink it. They did it just to be spiteful, just to be even more evil than they had to be. And they crucified him, which, if you don't know what that is, I'm sure most of you have seen a picture of Jesus on the cross. They take both your hands and spread them out on the wood. You picture these big railroad tie looking nails, either nailing them through your wrist or through your hands, and then through your feet. And then stand the cross upright in the ground and leave you hanging there till you're dead. Dividing up his clothes, they cast lots to see what each would get. It was 9 a.m. when they crucified him. The written notice of the charge against him read, "The King of the Jews." It's what they put above the cross above Jesus' head, "The King of the Jews," just to be spiteful. They crucified 2 rebels with him, one on his right and the other on his left. Those who passed by hurled insults at them, shaking their heads and saying, "So, you who are going to destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, come down from the cross and save yourself." In the same way, the chief priests and the teachers of the law mocked him among themselves. "He saved others," they said, "but he can't save himself. Let this Messiah, this King of Israel, come down from the cross that we may see and believe." Those crucified with him also heaped insults on him. The New International Version doesn't say, but the New King James Version says that one of the men on the cross beside Jesus, though, told the other guy that was on the other cross, basically, leave him alone. He said, "We have every right to be here because we've committed crimes, but this man has done nothing to deserve this." And he asked Jesus to remember him. And Jesus told him, "Today you will be with me in paradise." At noon, darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon. And at 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, "Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" When some of those standing near heard this, they said, "Listen, he's calling Elijah." Someone ran, filled a sponge with wine vinegar, put it on a staff, and offered it to Jesus to drink. "Now leave him alone. Let's see if Elijah comes to take him down," he said. With a loud cry, Jesus breathed his last. In the New King James Version it says first that Jesus looked up to heaven and said, "Father, into your hands I commend thy spirit." And then Jesus died. He gave up the ghost. The curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom as soon as Jesus died. And when the centurion who stood there in front of Jesus saw how he died, he said, "Surely this man was the Son of God." Some women were watching from a distance. Some of them were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James the younger and of Joseph, and Salome. In Galilee, these women had followed him and cared for his needs. Many other women who had come up with him to Jerusalem were there also. Little too late for the Sanhedrin and the elders to believe now, isn't it? It was preparation day, that is, the day before the Sabbath. So as evening approached, Joseph of Arimathea, a prominent member of the council, who was himself waiting for the kingdom of God, went boldly to Pilate and asked for Jesus' body. Pilate was surprised to hear that he was already dead. Summoning the centurion, he asked him if Jesus had already died. When he learned from the centurion that it was so, he gave the body to Joseph. Now in the New King James Version, to make sure Jesus was really dead, they stabbed him in the side with a spear. And of course he was dead. So Joseph bought some linen cloth, took down the body, wrapped it in the linen, and placed it in the tomb cut out of a rock. His tomb that was going to be his own tomb. He gave it to Jesus. Then he rolled a stone against the entrance of the tomb. Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of Joseph, saw where he was laid. In the New King James Version, the king has a big stone put across the burial site and has guards standing watch, because some of the elders and the Sanhedrins, they was all like, he said he would rise in 3 days, and his disciples are going to try to come take his body and say that he has rose, and it'll be even worse than it is now with people believing him. So they had a big stone put in front of the tomb and soldiers standing guard so that nobody could take Jesus' body. And that's where we'll stop with Mark for today. You'll see tomorrow what happens to that tomb. Now we're going to go on with Psalm today, which is Psalm 54. For the director of music, with stringed instruments, a maskil of David, when the Ziphites had gone to Saul and said, "Is not David hiding among us?" David always did so much good for Saul. David was always very faithful to Saul. Saul was his king, but Saul was just so jealous of David. He wanted to get rid of him. And Saul's son Jonathan and David were like the best of friends. They loved each other. They were the best of friends. Jonathan helped David a lot to not be killed by his father Saul. Okay, Psalm 54, which is just a short psalm, but still beautiful nonetheless. Save me, O Lord, by your name. Vindicate me by your might. Hear my prayer, O God. Listen to the words of my mouth. Arrogant foes are attacking me. Ruthless people are trying to kill me. People without regard for God. Surely God is my help. The Lord is the one who sustains me. Let evil recoil on those who slander me. In your faithfulness, destroy them. I will sacrifice a free will offering to you. I will praise your name, Lord, for it is good. You have delivered me from all my troubles, and my eyes have looked in triumph on my foes. And that was Psalm 54. Now lastly, for our Bible reading today, we're going to read Proverbs chapter 11, verses 5 and verse 6. And verse 5 says, "The righteousness of the blameless makes their path straight, but the wicked are brought down by their own wickedness." And 11:6 says, "The righteousness of the upright delivers them, but the unfaithful are trapped by evil desires." And that was 11:6. Okay, guys, that was today's Bible reading. I hope it touched your guys' hearts. I hope you guys are having a blessed day. Let's bring those souls to Jesus. And God willing, I'll see you guys again tomorrow with another Bible reading. Bye, guys. God bless.